That's question number two.
Oh, question number two. Order. David Bennett, I'm calling for order.
Here.
The Honourable, Right Honourable Winston Peters, question number two.
This question is also to the Minister of Finance. Does he stand by all his statements?
The Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker, in particular those that were intended to help that member's understanding of the economy.
Thank you very much. Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Does his statement, and I quote him, the commercial arrangements between the investors are not really the government's business, end of quotes, means he is absolving government of any responsibility for the operations of the Companies Act and the Takeovers Act with respect to Silver Ferns Farms? If so, why?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, yes, I do stand by that statement. The government is not responsible for the commercial arrangements entered into between the Silver Fern Farms and the recent buyer. If there is any question of the Companies Act being breached, then that's a matter for the enforcement agencies.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Does he stand by this statement, quotes, hardened long-term shareholders in Silver Fern Farms voted overwhelmingly in favour of the transaction, end of quotes, means he supports board members failing their fiduciary duty to disclose to shareholders the true financial state of a company subject to sale to majority overseas interests? If not, why not?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the statement means what it says, and that is that a company that has suppliers who I know scrutinise it very closely ran a series of meetings for a shareholder vote. In fact, I think legally they didn't actually have to do that, but they did it. If there's any questions of directors not meeting their fiduciary duties, that's a matter for the shareholders in the first instance and the enforcement agencies otherwise.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Minister, how can it be acceptable for shareholders in New Zealand's largest meat exporter to be given documentation 2 weeks before the end of its financial year, when directors knew full well that that documentation was false and much, much worse than Silver Farms' true financial state?
Order. It's a very marginal question. I'll leave the Minister of Finance to answer it.
Well, Mr Speaker, that is simply an allegation that's being made, no doubt, to the member and now by the member in the House, and anyone who has an interest in it can go and check that out. But of course, the board would be required to meet its legal obligations of disclosure.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Why will National not act on the operations of the law in a conspiracy that is of wine box proportions, designed to avoid the takeovers and companies law, defraud shareholders led by company CEO Dean Hamilton, the banks HSBC, CBA and Rabobank, the American investment bank Goldman Sachs, who got $10 million for the deal, so-called independent advisor Grant Samuels, and law firm Harmos Horton Lusk and Silver Firms Farms.
Honourable Bill English.
Well, to give the member credit, the original conspiracy was referring to actually was one, and it was a very complex one. In this case, I think it's a bit less obvious that there's the same kind of nefarious activity as was associated with the wine box. But if the member has allegations of that sort, he's free to broadcast them publicly outside the House and take them up with the people concerned.
Supplementary question.
Order. Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
If that's the Minister's challenge, then exactly what is his role as a senior Cabinet Minister, Minister of Finance in these matters?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as I've pointed out, we don't have a role. I mean, I've had a role as a neighbour of some of the long-term shareholders who've been very motivated about the meat industry for a number of years. In fact, I've seen some of them quoted in the media recently. Now satisfied with the state of the meat industry, which I never thought I'd see happen. But I'd suggest the member take that up with shareholders.
Question